Hello, everybody who is out there watching us at 7 p.m. Eastern, who's been paying attention to the real boss of everybody, which is Jeremy Como, who is behind the scenes tonight. He's taken a break from doing all the talkie. He has been a great help setting all this up, and it's time for him to just sit back and push buttons and laugh at us from behind the scenes. So this show is we're going to talk about Bonds of Valor, and we're going to kind of go through a series of authors throughout all of this. To let you know, I told all the authors to be here at 7 p.m. Central, and well, it's not 7 p.m. Central; it's 7 p.m. Eastern, and that's where I got confused. So we're going to circle through these authors and go through them as we have them here. This may end up being serendipitous for the very simple reason we've got a bunch of authors to talk to, and well, now we get to hear a lot more about them. So I will start with the people on the screen now, and we'll go and have you guys introduce each other yourselves. And so, John, since you're at the top of my screen, would you introduce yourself and tell us about your story, and if you have a favorite part of your story?
All right. Well, I am John R. Osborne, just like the thing says below my face. And I am an author for Chris Kennedy Publishing in both the science fiction and fantasy side of the business. My story, The Carryman, actually was a finalist for the Bain Fantasy Short Story Contest this year. So I was pretty proud of that. And it takes place in a magical alternate history colonial America, if that's not complicated enough for you. And it's the story of an ordinary man who has to rise to the challenge when things on his job don't go the way it's planned. He has to step up and be a hero.
Explain the term carryman real quickly, because it doesn't necessarily, people who aren't seeing the title may not get it yet.
Okay, so in this world, because there's magic, there's also monsters. And because you have monsters, you have monster hunters called Jaegers. Well, Jaegers have a lot of gear to carry, so they employ professional henchmen called carrymen who lug around their gear for them. And our main character is one of those carrymen, and well, unfortunately, his Jaeger dies on the mission. And he's left to pick up the pieces, and it ends up getting recruited to finish the mission.
All right. I really enjoyed that story. I really am hoping that you'll write a few novels in that. I'm expecting a trilogy. Look at me channeling my inner Kevin Steverson.
Always got to be a trilogy.
Well, we'll let others talk, but if we get time, we can come back around to that.
All right, great. Fiona, you are next up on my screen. Tell us about yourself and tell us about your story a little bit.
Hi, I'm Fiona Gray, and I write fantasy. I submitted a story called The Coward's Shadow, which was a knight in a medieval setting. That was not what I intended originally at all. But this is a story that deals with a really unlikely pairing. I really wanted to explore a very unlikely bond. So it ended up being a little bit of a redemption story for a wildly stubborn character. And I think my favorite part is the part where maybe it breaks your heart a little bit at the end, and then heals it a little bit.
That part at the end is what got me. That was the part that I said, yes, this story has to be in the anthology. So well done there.
Thank you.
All right, Jody, you have just popped up next on my screen. I'm just going down the list right now, and so I'm asking you to introduce yourself. Although you are Jody Lanai and probably don't need much of an introduction, but tell us a little bit about the story you put in here and some of your favorite things about the story or even the myth universe.
The Myth Adventures. I'm Jody Lanai. I write science fiction and fantasy. I've written over 50 books and 175 short stories. And I have been reading the Myth Adventures since I was in college, and they were, as many people have told me, they came along when I needed them because they are about good fellowship and a friendship that will never die, and terrible, terrible puns. So what's not to like? There's good adventure in there. Mithril happens to be a story about Gleep and Buttercup, who are respectively a dragon and a unicorn, a war unicorn. And this story appeared in a book called A Game of Horns, which was all about red unicorns. So I was able to work in somebody for Buttercup to interact with. And it was a lot of fun to do because it's also a takeoff on A Game of Thrones. I'm not ashamed of that at all. But it was fun to work in details from the Myth Adventures universe and some references to the source material, as well as making it a story of loyalty and poking a little bit of fun and involving lots and lots of dragons.
More dragons is always better.
Quite agree.
Excellent. Bex, you are next on my screen. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us about your story and tell us about some of your favorite things in your story.
Hi, I'm Bex. My first story I ever submitted is Stars and Shadows. It's a story of two old protectors on their watch and just their bond with each other. I don't know if I had to pick a favorite part, it's probably the beginning. Just the interaction between the two characters, Locke and Lorelei. I really like their interactions with each other.
I like that too. I liked your main character so much, and the same true for you, Fiona, that I made sure that your two characters were on the front cover. You each had a character on the front cover, so congratulations on that. I thought those characters were really cool, and I thought Jake would do a really good job creating art with your two characters, and I think he did.
Looks awesome.
Yeah, if you don't always see it on the screen on the small image, but on the one to the right, on the character to the right, on the bottom, there's a mouse on his shoulder, and that's Fiona's. Yes. Don't know if you can see it, but there's a mouse on his shoulder right there, and then up above is Bex's main warrior, and he was just that guy's a dude. I really enjoyed reading about him.
He's pretty cool. I like him.
I don't blame you. All right. And now we move to Kevin. Mr. Severson, tell us about your story and the Balance of Kerr series in general, as well as your favorite part and yourself.
I'm Kevin Steverson. I write a little everything. Science fiction is what I'm most known for, and then fantasy. Got the trilogy, working on the third book in that trilogy, in the Balance of Kerr. So it was quite a thing to create my own universe and magic systems and all that kind of stuff. Stuck to a lot of the tropes, twisted a little bit of the tropes, that kind of thing. So in this story, The Chosen Few, basically I'm introducing paladins into the world of Kerr, and there hasn't been one before, or any, actually. There was an order of clerics that were called the Frontline Order, and they were designated to fight on the front lines with the rest of the king's own troops. Kind of like today's modern medics in an infantry platoon. You know, you have a cleric there to actually do some prayer for healing before the rest of the clerics or the herbalists and everybody else can get up there and help out with the wounded. So they were, you know, they take lives to save lives. So that kind of cleric it's looked at sideways even by other clerics, because I mean that's just unusual for someone to take lives. But the story is where they go on and Paladin's introduced, and you know a lot of the tropes with Paladins is there, his weapon, his armor, the horse. We all know the horse has to come along and it has to have its own personality, so that's all part of it. You know, and he names his horse, and so it was just a good time writing it, and it's something I needed for the third book also. So this really helped out to be able to write this short story for the anthology.
Nice.
So.
I've really enjoyed your Balance of Kerr series. I do agree with you on how you're using tropes. I like how you twist them just a little bit. There's a lot of clearly David Eddings' influence on you, because David Eddings is so good at using tropes and then twisting them a little bit, like in the Elenium and the Tamui series. I had a very interesting thing happen this weekend. Speaking of Eddings, not that I should shill for Eddings and his estate, but ran into the artist for the company that has purchased the rights to the Elenium, Tamuli, Melorian, and Belgariad, and it looks like they're going to be republishing those with new art, and hopefully for the first time we'll get the Elenium and the Tamuli on ebook, something I've been wanting for a while. And I just realized I've been remiss in not introducing the last person currently on the screen. My boss, the one who helps with all the editing, and that would be Winifred right here. And she is very good at helping me edit. I just wish she didn't have to use her claws quite so often to get me to do what she wants. Not that they're in my shoulder right at this moment, but later on they will be, I'm sure. All right. So, any comments to follow up on anything we've said? Moderately Dr. Evil, more like Professor Evil, like John thinks. Any comments you guys want to follow up on anything that you heard for the first few stories, or shall we get to question number 2 on our list? Looks like question number 2 on our list. Question number 2 is, what's the favorite compliment that you've ever received or given related to your writing? So, Mr. Severson, we'll just go in the other order this time. And so, Kevin, what is your favorite compliment that you've ever received or given as related to your writing?
Well, it wasn't in my fantasy writing. It was actually in my military sci-fi writing, and it floored me, and I didn't know how to act. I still don't know how to. When someone said that it reminded them of Heinlein, and that alone is enough to where I have to stop and take a deep breath. So, I do write, I guess, a little like the old masters, the old classics. It's a simple style of writing. I've talked with Bill Webb about it. He still says I need to put out a little book on that. I call it complex simplicity. I deliberately write simple. I write. Nobody's having to pull out the thesaurus. Nobody's looking up words. It's deliberate. And there have been times when I've erased passages that I've written because I want it for the common man. You know what I mean? I deliberately, I don't want it complicated. And that's something I've worked on since I started writing. And I think I do a pretty good job with that to keep it that way. So it's a quick read, so they can't put the book down. So I get an email about how they stayed up till 2 a.m. Thanks a lot. They got to be at work at 6, but they went ahead and ordered the second book. So.
Excellent. That is a great compliment in and of itself. That's for sure. All right. Bex, I think you're next. What's the best compliment you've ever given or received pertaining to writing?
Probably that it sucked them in. It's good to hear. My mom tells me I'm good at like just sucking people into the story. I've had a couple friends tell me that too. I think when I had a friend of mine got offered to be a reader for me, and he told me, he's like, yeah, this will take 30 minutes. 2.5 hours later.
Nice.
I was like, that was a good compliment, because you're your own biggest critic.
Goodness. I don't know how many times I talk about this on the New Mythology Discord channel. By the way, New Mythology has a Discord channel. If you're interested, Jeremy will provide a link for you later on. But I don't know how much I talk about how hard it is to write when you're not getting down on yourself and when you're not hammering yourself for whatever reason. And writers, and myself included, tend to do that quite often. And it's a hard enough job as it is. So I get that. And so, and I'll tell you, your story, like I said, sucked me in as well. I really enjoyed that opening scene. And yeah, and I'm also a sucker for someone who stands up and not a huge spoiler here, but stands up and risks everything for other people. So,
yep.
Jody, what's the best compliment you've ever received or given pertaining to writing?
Let's see. One that I wasn't sure was a compliment at first. Back when I first got into writing books, I moved from game materials to books. I wrote a couple of choose your own adventures for a series called Crossroads. And I was writing licensed Choose Your Own Adventures. Mine were set in Anne McCaffrey's Pern. And the editor of the program said, "It was so nice that you got Anne McCaffrey to rewrite your book for you." So, meaning that it sounded enough like Anne. And I was kind of insulted by that because, in fact, I had written it and had nothing to do with writing it. But on the other hand, it made me realize that I was a very good mimic. And I have used that to my benefit in the years since. For a compliment that I've given, I think that might have to go to Terry Pratchett, because the Discworld books really mean a lot to me. I love them, and I love all the characters in them. They are so real. But Death is one of my favorites. And the book Reaper Man is based all about, it's kind of like Death Takes a Holiday, which is a well-known movie. And Terry managed to make me cry with one word. And I think probably a lot of other people did too. So
What I have to ask what the word was.
the word was yes.
Oh,
Read the book. You'll see. It's so good.
I will definitely look for that next time I read it. I have read it, but I'm not sure which yes.
There's only one yes of any real importance.
I think I do know now that I think about it. I'll definitely reread. I love the Discworld stuff myself. It's fantastic. Fiona, I believe you're up next. What is the best compliment you have given or received pertaining to your writing?
So these actually go hand in hand because I've done a lot of technical writing and editing for the day job, and I'm known for red pen. And when I tell someone that their particular paper is ready, I think everyone just breathes a sigh of relief because I'm done ripping it to shreds. But one of the people that I got through the editing process told me that I was born to write and edit. And I had no idea what to say because it just meant so much. And it's something that the words come out if I don't keep them contained into a story. So that writing and editing is going to happen whether or not I like it. But yeah, born to write and edit, and being known for red pen, I think, is my answer there.
Excellent. Well, I really enjoyed the way you did that story, and the giving up, standing up, no matter the size of the creature, standing up and trying to defend others behind you. I'm always a sucker for that. John, best compliment you've ever received or given?
It was from a reader who told me that his son saw how much he was enjoying reading the Milesian Accords, and he could only read for an hour a day. But his son saw how much he enjoyed it. So his son, who hadn't had an interest in reading before, decided that he wanted to take up reading too. And so he and his son would get books for his son, and then they would take that hour together and sit there and read. And it was all because his son saw how much his father was enjoying my books.
That's pretty darned awesome. That's right up there. Yeah, awesome. I'm going to touch base and swing back around to a couple of the people who I know can't be here tonight, but I just want to mention the stories that they've got in the anthology, and so you guys have an idea of what all's here. I'll start with Todd McCaffrey. Obviously, that's Stan's son, and he was a wonderful addition to this anthology. He kind of came in late. I talked to him at 20 books, and I asked him to give me a story, and it was one of those. He'll say no. He never has time. Most writers don't have time. It's like, oh, that sounds great. I'll get you one. And a couple weeks later, I had a story, and it's the one in here, and it is a guardian of a king who, let's just say maybe the time has come for him to rectify a mistake. And that's about all I can say without spoiling it. But at the end, again, he got me with one of those sacrifices. And I guess Winifred is tired of book talk, I guess. Another one that who is not going to be able to make it tonight is Glenn Cook. Glenn Cook has contributed now 3 Black Company stories to the Valor anthologies, and I am beyond ecstatic that he has done so. The Black Company has been one of my favorite series to read in fantasy for a long, long time. And then his, just in general, I've been a fan of Glenn Cook for a variety of things. His Garrett PI series, which not only do I love in themselves, but it gives me a chance to talk about Randall Garrett, who's his Loris Darcy series, which inspired the Garrett PI series, inspired a bunch of other writers such as myself. It's one of my favorite series of all time. It's sort of Sherlock Holmes in a magical Victorian world. It's fantastic stuff. All right, so I think I have some whimsical questions now to throw at you guys. Since we have more time than I expected, you can probably expect to get all of these, and we'll just go around, and we'll start with John. Who's your favorite Muppet?
Animal.
Why?
Animal.
Fair enough. Fiona, who's your favorite Muppet?
Oh, Beaker, definitely. He's so awkward and he gets into trouble.
That's fair enough. And I've got to move Winifred because she's chasing the mouse cursor.
That's what cats do.
Yes, they do. Jody, who's your favorite Muppet?
Oh, I love Kermit. I love his sarcastic nature, but he's also the kind of person that likes to bring people together, and I love that about him. So, Kermit.
I agree. I like Kermit quite a bit too. We need a Muppet flail. Jeremy, can you give us a Muppet flail? Yeah, we can all Muppet flail. Oh, who's your cat?
This is Athena. She's one of our 3. And, well, that's good. She's the brains behind an interstellar spy ring. So she occasionally comes through and checks on things.
Excellent. So, Bex, who is your favorite Muppet?
Also, 2 of the people already picked my top 2 choices, so I think I'm going to go with the Swedish Chef.
He's always fun.
He's very fun. My dad does a very good impression of the Swedish Chef.
I have a very bad habit. We have an IKEA here in Kansas City. I can't walk into the IKEA without going in Bork Bork. I just can't. I have a bunch of Swedish friends, and they're all like, when I see them about once a year, they're like, all right, get it out of your system. All right.
That's also how I cook, funnily enough.
Fair enough. Kaboom!
Yeah, pretty much.
Kevin, who's your favorite Muppet?
I'm going to break off what everybody's been picking individuals. I love the house band, Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. That is all of them. Everybody in it, from the guy who can't remember anything, yet he plays the hell out of his instrument. It's just the whole band. I love the house band.
Excuse me a second. Winifred is deciding to try and get into the treat drawer. You silly cat.
I love you.
She knows I have treats. She wants treats. So Dr. Teeth and the band.
Yep, the Electric Mayhem.
Yep, they're quite fun. I agree wholeheartedly. I like them a lot. Actually, there aren't many Muppets I don't like. I have to say the best one-liners, though, come from Statler and Waldorf up in the balcony. I love those guys.
So, Kevin, do you think that Dr. Teeth was inspired by Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show?
I do. I think I do. And if you look at some of those members of the band and you look at what they look like and you're like, wait a minute. But I have seen something really funny. I'm sure you guys have all seen it. The picture of Willie Nelson sitting right in the middle of the band, and he looks like he fits in perfectly.
So are you saying Willie Nelson is a Muppet?
I don't know. But when they had a picture of him with the band, it was like, wait a minute. Because he had his headband, he had his hair in the ponytails. It was the whole, yeah.
May not be a Muppet, but they have certain substances in common.
Yeah, we do.
The first concert I ever saw was Willie Nelson. In fact, my mom took me to his concert in Wichita at the football stadium for Wichita State. And it's a huge open air football stadium. And I'm like, what's that smell? And mom's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin. What's your wrestler name? And what's your signature wrestler move?
I don't know what the wrestler name would be. That's a good one. You know, I the move has got to be the hammer. We climb up on the top rope and come down with an elbow. So, just drop the hammer. But I don't know what a name would be. Gosh, that's hard to.
I'll come back to you. I'm not letting you out of this. Not letting you out of this so easily. But I'll come back to you. All right, Bex. We'll see. What do you have for a wrestler name, and what do you have for a signature move?
I honestly don't watch much wrestling, so I have nothing to fall back on. The disappearing act, where I just don't show up. I don't know.
Oh, at the moment I put that up, just to let the fans know, Fiona and Jody are like, there's these generators. There's a fantasy name generator for wrestler names, and there's a Fino.com pro wrestler name.
Says the guy who uses BehindTheName.com religiously for names.
I do. I like it a lot. I love the random generator that Behind the Names provides.
Oh yeah, get a lot of use out of that site.
Especially if there's a tick on there that you can tick the life story, and it'll add all sorts of things like left hand or right hand or height and weight and stuff like that. So I don't want to have to think about that stuff. I just type it in and poof, it does the thinking for me. And God knows I need all the help I can get with that.
I thumb through the phone book for names and match a first, match a second. Now you understand I'm in Northeast Georgia, so it's a huge phone book that I have to go through. That's the entire phone book for where I'm at, including all yellow pages.
And half of it's Hatfield and half of it's McCoy, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But
I mean, it works. It works.
What I needed like a lot of Hispanic names for one of my books, so I got the soccer team rosters for the World Cup, and started pulling up team rosters for South American countries and mixing and matching first names and surnames. It's like I just need a throwaway name for a guy who's going to die in one scene because it's military science fiction.
I'm pretty confident, not that I didn't know this from talking to him, but before I'd ever met David Weber, I knew he was a baseball fan, because there are several instances in his books where you get like a Sosa and another baseball player and another baseball player and another baseball player, like their introductions come all at once. I'm like, All right, Jody. How about you? What's your wrestler name and what's your signature move?
Well, I like drama, which I got from the fantasy name generators / wrestler names. But the one that the Beano came up with was, back to my phone because I screenshotted the page, Thunderpants. And my signature move is doing a big fart. But I would say that the latter would be my signature move, because I think that's incredibly dramatic.
Yeah. That's fair. But now I will never not look at your name in any kind of book or every time I see you without thinking Thunderpants.
Don't forget the drama part.
Brilliant. Fiona, how about you?
Well, I did cheat with the fantasynamegenerators.com. It gave me something better than I came up with myself. So Misfortune. And I think my signature move would probably be accidentally smacking people into walls. I am a little clumsy.
Is this what happens to your family normally? Your poor cats or pets? Or
Oh, they're fine, but the cat nearly gave me a sprained ankle earlier today. It's kind of a long story.
Well, we may have time to circle around back to it. but I understand, Clumsy. I got a sprained ligament in my thumb earlier this month, and I went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Yeah, you got a sprained ligament. What'd you do?" I don't know. It was fine when I went to bed. And I don't know. And you've had this for 4 days, and I said, "Yeah, but if I came in, called you for every time a joint in my body aches, you'd never get anything done." I'm old enough for that to matter. John, what's your wrestler name and your signature move?
Well, when your last name is Osborne, invariably your nicknames are Oz and Ozzy. So in the alternate reality where I'm a wrestler, my wrestling name would be Kamikaze Ozzy, and my signature move would be the dive bomb.
Oh, nice. You actually put some thought into this. Very well done.
Like 5 minutes while we stalled, yeah.
Nice from Chris. Let's see here. Chris has got to have something that involves bombing run, given his former job. Come on, Kevin. Now give us your name. Give us you haven't got you've even had 2 cheat options.
I didn't use the cheat option, but I'm gonna go back to some Southern rock. They're gonna call me the Breeze, and they never see me till I come up. But I'm gonna come out from under the mat, hit somebody with that elbow, run right across, and get back up under. And by the time they gain their senses and look around, I'm not there. And then the announcer is going to be, "It was the Breeze. I'm telling you, I saw it." Yeah.
That's not bad. I just had to give you a little time. All right. Let's talk about some TV shows. We'll go see who your favorite 70s TV shows are. John, who's your favorite 70s? What's your favorite 70s TV show?
The one that springs to mind is Battlestar Galactica. Because I was a kid when I watched it. Of course, I was during the whole Star Wars craze. And Star Wars was the first movie I got to see twice in the theater, mainly because my mom took it to me first because my dad was going to have me that weekend. And so she, and a little bit of a spiteful move, took me to see it first before he could. But then when he picked me up, and he's like, "What movie do you want to see?" I want to see Star Wars. So I got to see it again. And as we know, Battlestar Galactica is we'll say homage to Star Wars. It's inspired by Star Wars and totally not a ripoff of Star Wars.
Totally not a ripoff. And of course it had Dirk Benedict in it, and I not only loved him in Battlestar Galactica, but then there's the A-Team, and I mean, Dirk Benedict, such a formative actor in my youth, truly. All right, Fiona, what's your favorite 70s TV show?
The Incredible Hulk, absolutely.
Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby. So why that one?
Well, the easy answer is Hulk smash, but I really enjoy the dichotomy between the different sides of the Hulk and trying to figure out all those emotions. I remember growing up on that show, and it was, I don't know, a lot of fun childhood memories, I guess.
Nice. All right, Jody, how about you? What's your favorite 70s TV show?
Oh boy. Well, MASH came from that era, and we still sit and watch episodes of MASH when they turn up because it was just so good. There's just so much to offer for that. And there was a lot of superhero stuff going on. Wonder Woman is also a 70s program.
Linda Carter.
Right. Let's see. But I also was a big fan of Saturday morning television shows as well. What's not to like? And so the Sid and Marty Krofft programs had made a big impression on me. And at the same time, the Warner Brothers cartoons had more of their shows going by. So got a lot of inspiration and fun out of those.
Yeah, Saturday morning cartoons back then were pretty darn good, honestly. I mean, there's so much in those. Even it was the especially silly ones, the Laugh Olympics. I always enjoyed those. You mentioned MASH, and I was in a conversation with someone, and we were talking about storytelling, and MASH. The second half obviously became so much stronger because they incorporated dramatic elements. and I just can't ever forget. I mean, obviously the easy answer is what's the most dramatic episode, and you can go with Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. But I remember that scene. I'll never forget the scene when Radar comes up and says to everybody, Henry Blake has died. And he didn't know it was happening. It was such a powerful scene. And honestly, they'd had some hints that they were going to the dramatic side of things, but that was kind of the real break point, and became so much stronger after that. Yeah. Such a powerful one.
Really good television.
It was. Hey, Dave, we'll be getting to you here in a bit. Be thinking of your favorite TV show, because that's what we're on right now. But we'll TV show from the 70s. But we'll get back to you for some of your story time as well. Right now, though, we're going to Bex. Bex, what is your favorite 70s TV show?
Well, I'm a little bit on the young side to have caught any of the actual 70s TV shows. I think from the reruns I've seen, though, I think I'd have to pick the Pink Panther.
Oh, that's a fun show.
Yeah. My parents had a DVD collection of it, and I watched it all the time as a kid. It's amazing.
Wow, I didn't realize they put that out. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Neat.
It appeals to my sense of humor.
They're fun shows. Kevin, what's your favorite 70s TV show?
I really liked Barney Miller.
Oh, yeah.
That detective show. It was well written. All the characters were there, the different personalities. And by bringing in different criminals that got caught doing, whether it was real stuff, crazy stuff, outrageous stuff, it let them just write show after show after show. And I think it was just really well written, and the comedy and the humor and the one-liners. And, I think it was a good show. Plus, it had one of the greatest theme songs for any TV show ever with that bass line.
Yep.
Amazing.
And the cast.
The
cast was awesome.
Yeah. Yes. So.
And Jeremy's popping in with $6 Million Man and Fall Guy from Lee Majors. All right. So, Dave, since we're on the topic, what is your favorite 70s TV show?
Well, I think I might have, in any random day, said Battlestar Galactica, which, as I recall, started late in the 70s, right at the tail end, 78, 79, something like that.
Yes, it did.
But actually today I kind of have Dukes of Hazzard on the brain, which is basically the same period of time, end of the 70s, kind of right into the mid 80s. I think you can't go wrong with an episode of Bo, Luke, and Daisy thwarting Boss Hogg and Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Probably can't. And again, Catherine Bach. Sorry, I might have favorites on that show. I don't remember where I saw it recently, but somebody posted an ad. One of my Twitter followers does stuff from the 70s, and it was an ad for one of those celebrity athletic events, and various different people going against each other and Catherine Bach was in it, and I think we talked about a number of the other actors that we've talked about. Those were always really fun, whimsical things. I wish we'd see more of those. I think sometimes actors these days don't grok the same kind of humor that the 70s actors really had about a lot of that. So
that show had a great theme song too.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, Tom Wopat and John Schneider, they went on into country music world and had some legitimate hits, as in like real deal good songs. So both
Tom Wopat's had a career on Broadway.
Yeah.
He's. I didn't know that about John Schneider. That's interesting. Of course, I think about him also as the dad in Smallville.
Right.
Smallville. No, he was in.
No, you're right. Smallville.
Yeah.
An episode of Leverage brought him back as the bad guy who was stealing people's songs, and then using their song and putting it out himself and beating the crap out of them so they'd shut up about it. And I was like, he can't be a bad guy.
That's like John Boy Walton or somebody. It's hard to believe.
John Boy Walton, serial killer.
And he did a great job with it.
Yeah,
so that's an episode of Leverage you want to check out, because in that same thing, it has Christian Kane singing. And his buddy's freaking out because wait a minute, it's not adjusting his voice, it's not changing his tune, it's not. That's because he has perfect pitch. He can sing. He has a publishing contract out of Nashville. If you ever listen to Christian Kane trust me, his song "A Different Kind of Night" is amazing. So
Cool.
All right,
Talented.
sorry, go ahead, Jody. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Christian Kane is all kinds of talented. I love Leverage. I love what he's the things he's done since I love The Librarians.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Dave, your turn to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the story that you're putting in. And since you're going to be since I kind of know what you're going to be talking about, you might want to talk a little bit about that whole series.
Yeah, I'm Dave. For adults, I generally publish under the name under my initials, DJ Butler, as I guess you probably see on the screen. My 16th novel came out about 2 weeks ago. Science fiction fantasy for adults. I'm also an editor with Baen Books, kind of doing an increasing amount of work over there as time goes by. So I got a story here. I think it's called Bonds of Matrimony, as I recall. And I've got these pair of characters named Indrajit and Fix, and they live in it looks like a sword and sandals kind of setting. And Rob's been generous enough to publish them in a number of the Valor anthologies. So this ends up being something like the 15th story or something like that about these guys. So Indrajit is the last bard of a dying people. He carries his people's epic poem in his head. He's trying to find a successor, and he cannot because no one wants to hear it. And certainly no one wants to learn how to recite 30,000 lines of poetry with appropriate stances and inflection, right? It's a dead art. And Fix is a former monk who left the ashrama for love, and when we meet him is trying to make a living as a black market insurance broker. But what they are is two sort of sensitive souls and thinking men making a living as borderline thugs and sort of secret agents in this big decadent fantasy-looking capital that actually is a future Earth. It's really kind of a Sword and Planet story. Everything that looks like magic is some kind of technology or strange biology. So Bonds of Matrimony is about they've been hired by a client who ostensibly to go recover things that his wife has kept, as I recall, his half of the marital property. And it's only when they sort of arrive that they realize the home is basically a dungeon and the wife is basically a dragon, and it gets worse for them from there.
Because you add some of the like Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones traps as well in there, and if dragon wasn't enough, all sorts of things like that too.
Yep, yeah, a lot of fun. Sword and sandal. It's like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, kind of in kilts.
I love this series. It's the 6th of his stories that I've published through the various anthologies, and I will keep asking him for more as long as he'll give them to me.
Oh, thank you.
And I do believe you've got some more longer form Indrajit and Fix coming out soon. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So in July, so they first appeared in a novel called In the Palace of Shadow and Joy, which came out at the very best time for books to come out in July of 2020. Perfectly timed. When everyone was in bookstores and feeling confident about their disposable income. So, so for a while, they've basically lived in short stories. And I went to Tony and said, hey, listen, I've got 10 short stories, and I have written a novella also, previously published short stories, this new novella. I'd like to put out a second book about these guys. So, if you're hearing about them thinking, oh, how do I catch up? Well, come July, they'll be basically book 2, which I think 5 of the stories in that collection were edited by Rob. A couple have been on the Baen website or elsewhere, plus a novella. It's called Between Princesses and Other Jobs. Comes out in July.
Awesome. Tony, by the way, for reference to anybody who may not realize it who's watching this, is Tony Weisskopf of Baen Books, who is amazing and incredibly talented and smart. So, Dave, you get to answer a couple of these fast questions quickly.
Okay.
Well, actually, what's the favorite compliment you've ever given or received about writing?
Well, that's interesting. The favorite compliment I've ever given or received.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I think I'm gonna do both. So I in a steampunk anthology I edited, there was a guy who wrote this story about this Martian colony where the men all died in an accident, and it was about these women trying to figure out how to reproduce without men, and they sort of become symbiotic with local plant life. And the other editor was like, "Oh, we can't publish this," and I said, "Oh yeah, we can." And so I emailed the author's name is Eric, and I said, "Eric, this story is so goddamn weird, and it's so goddamn good. I have to publish it." So there's that. My favorite compliment I have received this is my favorite review. I don't think it was meant as a compliment. I don't even know what it means, but I am very tickled that I've got it anyway. My favorite Amazon review, 2-star review for my novel I co-wrote with Aaron Michael Ritchie, The Cunning Man, is not suitable for Christian women. I don't know why. The reviewer does not explain what it is about Christian women in particular that makes it, or about the book. I don't know why, but not suitable for Christian women. I love it. I don't believe it. I'm used by it, but I love it.
I'm kind of waiting for that rating designation, on movies, R-rated,
Right.
what even code would that be? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I mean, the book I don't think it has any profanity in it. It has no, doesn't even have a romance subplot. There's no sex. I don't know. I don't know what the issue was, but not suitable.
Yeah, I got no answer for you there. So who's your favorite Muppet?
Oh, probably Dr. Teeth.
Oh, you got another one, Kevin. Kevin went the whole band, actually.
Kevin would go the music. Yeah. Dr. Teeth and Animal and his baby, the name of the huge one. Is he in the band? I can't remember. No,
I remember Janice playing the horn, saxophone.
And Floyd.
And
Yeah.
Floyd.
And
Yeah.
Zoom. Yeah. I like Dr. Teeth a lot. He's got great personality.
Yeah, I do too. So what's your wrestler name and what's your signature wrestler move?
Wow, I did not think this was this kind of podcast.
It is now.
My wrestler name. Well, man, I don't know. Is it WW? What do you call it now? WWE? It's not WWF anymore, right? Is it like we're talking Mexican wrestling?
Whatever kind of wrestling you want. If you want to do Lucha Libre or whatever, go right ahead.
Okay, then I think I'm a luchador, and I think my luchador name is El Pinche, and which is the scullion, the kitchen boy, but is also a fantastic piece of Mexican profanity. And I think I just lie on people and crush them. I think that's all I do. Just smash them flat.
It's good to be 6'89", isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
What was that, John? I cut you off.
The smother.
Wrestling nowadays is like everything else with the internet and total access, and you've got leagues everywhere, low budget Bob's Backyard Wrestling and everything else happening. I was in an event a couple weeks ago in Tupelo, and I don't even know the name of the organization, but they had wrestling at that Pop Culture Con. and I didn't
Yep.
recognize anybody, but I mean, they had a crowd. And so
What's that Mickey Rourke film he did where he was a wrestler? Like,
that was actually a good movie.
that was a great movie, and it was about that
Yes.
kind of league, right? Where like
Yeah.
people would like wrap barbed wire around the chair and hit the other guy with it. Like you really
Right.
take a beating to make the show, but you're
Yeah,
getting paid,
it's like the superstars. They get older and they fall and they go to a lower level wrestling, then another lower, then a lower, and next thing you know, it's a traveling show that hits the National Guard armories in small towns. You know,
yeah, I forget the name of the show, but that was terrific.
yeah, it was a good movie. I think it was The Wrestler.
It might be,
It
yeah.
might be. Mickey Rourke first came on my consciousness with Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, which it really has no redeeming value, but I love that movie. All right, so let's go ahead and do a round of where can we find you all. And so this is the last question I have on the list. And some of you who got in here early, because again, I screwed up the time. I miscommunicated with Jeremy and he had 7 p.m. Eastern and I had 7 p.m. Central. So we've had a bunch of these on since 6 p.m. my time. And if any of these people need to drop out because they've been here basically for an hour, I'll go ahead and give you guys a chance to talk about some of the places we can find you. And then if you need to drop out and go like have a real life or, write, you can do so. Or welcome to stay and we can all laugh at Dave's wrestling maneuver. So John, tell us about where we can find you and do all your promo stuff.
All right, ye old promo stuff. Like and subscribe. Oh, wait, I don't have a YouTube channel. So you can find me, my website is johnrosborne.com. You can find me on Facebook at John R. Osborne. You can find me on Instagram at John R. Osborne. But we bucked the trend with Twitter because it was way before I was a writer. That's at Druid Oz.
All right. How about you, Fiona? Give us your promo stuff that you have handy.
So you can find me at FionaGrayWrites.com. That's Gray with an E. Or on Facebook.com/FionaGrayWrites. Same spelling.
Excellent.
No other social media because I have not figured that out yet.
Well, honestly, it's hard to do, and you don't want to do every one of them. I will say that. Make sure don't put social media ahead of actual writing time. There's my one piece of advice. Kevin, the screen got rearranged, so the order is brand new. So Kevin, give us your promo stuff real quickly.
You can find me at kevinsteverson.com. Same thing with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is different. It's at Call Me Cathead, and there's a story behind that. There are people still in the military 30 years later that still call me Cathead.
And what is that story?
Well, I had a sergeant, and he used to call me Cat Stevens because of Steverson. And it was one of our other soldiers. He had a big head, and he got mixed up hollering at both of us and hollered Cathead. And I messed around and looked. And since I answered it, that was all she wrote. And there are people to this day, that's all they know me as is Cathead, from all the years in the military. So you do 21 years and something sticks to you, I guess kind of like a pilot's name.
You
don't that's where I can be found. Let's see where else. Well, you can, if you go on YouTube and just type in my name, you'll probably see the song. I've got 10 songs that I co-wrote or wrote and got cut out of Nashville. But on one of them, when I was going in there for the scratch demo, just for the artists, so they could do their take on it, the platinum producer kept me in the booth. Long story short, I ended up being featured on the song. So yeah, it's on YouTube on there, it's Instagram, Spotify. Apparently I got monthly listeners on Spotify. Who go figure. Yeah. But anyhow, that's the one song that got me. Check it off the bucket list.
Nice. Bex, you're next up on my screen now.
I have a blog. It's a Scattered Stories Journal. I post stuff to there occasionally when I remember to. I'm not really good at the whole social media thing either. I'm also on Facebook. Again, I don't post very much. It's B.A. Ironwood. Like how it's spelled on the screen with there's a dot after the A. That's pretty much it.
Excellent. And this was your first ever published piece, right?
Yes.
Is it the same for you, Fiona?
No, not my first published, but I was very, very excited about it.
Well, you both wrote great stories, so you earned it. So, Jody, give us your promo stuff.
Well, I'm on jodylynnnye.com, which probably also is fed into by jodynye.com and jodynye.net, owing to my webmaster getting a different job and dropping all sorts of things, including my URL. Excuse me. And I have Facebook, jodylynnnye.com. So that's my chief form of social media. I check in there. I have an Instagram account, but by George, I haven't posted anything on it yet. But I still have about 30 followers. Go figure. But I promise I will put up things like covers, like the beautiful cover that was just displayed earlier, and other things, and cat pictures, of course.
Cat pictures. It may be even cat head pictures, but different cat head. So, Dave, give us your promo stuff.
I have a website. I haven't updated my blog in years, but if you want like a landing page to sort of see what have I done, davidjohnbutler.com is a good place. Pretty active on Twitter at David John Butler. That's John with an H. I'm also reasonably active across a sort of a small number of Discords. So you might find me in Rob's Discord, or if you're an active Discord user and want to get into my server, come connect with me on Twitter or whatever, and I'll probably let you in if you look, clean. And that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. I will remind you, and that we'll put up, Jeremy, make sure to hit me up for the link to the Discord channel so we can have that for anybody who wants to sign up later. We have hey guys, it's the
Why don't you get your own
Hoyts.
computer?
So I'll be
It's,
doing the Discord
I know,
channel
you're making
for
it hard on
everybody. I'm sorry, Daniel, what was
My
that?
computer's a mess. 2 seconds. I can't hear anyone else though.
Facebook strikes again, or Firefox strikes again.
If you're going to try to be in this too, this is not going to work.
Hi, Sarah. You guys hear us?
Get it anyway.
Can you hear us?
Laptop works lovely.
Please get your laptop.
I think they might not realize that we can hear them. It's my hypothesis.
Yes, that is my hypothesis too. While they're figuring that out, Daniel, let us know when you can hear something. Like that's going to help.
Jeremy, you can hide them until they're ready to come on.
Which he just did. Let's go ahead. Jeremy asked a question in our chat here that I should have asked. Where will we see you guys upcoming down the road? Dave, we'll start with you.
Let's see. I think the next thing I'm doing is probably LibertyCon, which I want to say is something like the week of June 25th, 26th, something like that.
Something like that.
Mid to late June in Chattanooga, as always.
It is 23rd to the 25th of June.
Okay, thank you for that. Which is, if you can get in, is a great show. It's famously a little tricky to get in these days because it's so elite. Dragon Con is a staple show I go to. So Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. And that's all that I'm sure about right now. There are other possibilities.
Excellent. So just to let those who've joined in, we've started early because I got the time screwed up, as you probably saw from your emails. Going to go ahead and let them finish so that if they want to hang out, they can. If they need to go, they can go. We also have a limit, apparently, of how many faces we can have on the screen at once. So we're going to go ahead and set it up so some of these people can jet if they need to go, like, live a real life or something. So Jody, where will we see you in person upcoming?
Probably the next thing is the Writers of the Future. Hello, I'm hearing sounds.
I
The
heard-
Writers of the Future Conference, which is at the end of April in Los Angeles. I'm now the coordinating judge of the Writers of the Future contest. So I read hundreds and hundreds of stories a year. And this is the first I took over last year from David Farland, who we sadly lost. And this year, the people who are going to be featured in this awesome anthology are ones that I chose. So I'm really looking forward to that. I will be at LibertyCon in Chattanooga in June. And I have some other things that are brewing for the summer, but I haven't committed to them yet. But DragonCon for certain, Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. I teach 2-day writing workshop there, so that's always fun and exhausting. So come and join us. It's they call it Mardi Gras for nerds. If you've never been to DragonCon, you should certainly try it.
It's incredible. It really is incredible. Bex, will we be seeing you at some conventions coming up?
I am going to be at Fantasy, and
Excellent.
as far as I know, that's it.
Hey, that's a great place to start. There's going to be some great things happening at Fantasy. We will be doing this sort of panel at Fantasy, which is next weekend. In fact, once we're done here, I'm finishing my packing because something like 5:30 in the morning, I'm headed out tomorrow. This morning. I saw that look, Jody. If I leave,
you have my sympathy.
well, it works out like this. If I leave at 5 or 6, I get through Kansas City traffic. I'm on the west side of Kansas City. If I get through Kansas City traffic, and then I hit St. Louis at about 10, so I have no issues there. And then, depending upon whether I go through Indy or through Louisville, I hit them at about 2:30, and so again, I avoid the snarl. If I leave any later, I end up getting into some sort of mess somewhere. So I end up taking a nap in Kentucky or wherever. But that's the way it works. So,
This weekend, Rob, you mean like in 3 days, right?
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think, like I say,
So this is in Durham, North Carolina. So if
Yep.
you're in the area and have not been, it's a great show. It's small enough to be kind of intimate. A few hundred people. You can see everybody easily, and people hanging out, playing games in a. Is it still in the Hampton Inn this year?
it's in the DoubleTree in the
DoubleTree.
Research Triangle.
Yeah, by the airport.
So, okay, Kevin, where will we find you?
I will be at LibertyCon in June, Imaginarian in July, FactoryCon in October. It was just announced just a few days ago I will be the guest of honor at HalloCon.
Congratulations.
So that's the weekend. Thank you. That's the weekend right before Halloween. And then I'll be at 20 Books this year again. That's pretty much a staple for me. So I won't be at DragonCon. I did that once, and that's enough for me with dragging his bum leg around in that crowd and up down those hills around those hotels. That's a little too much for me. So
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Fiona, where will we find you?
I will be at LibertyCon, and that's it for now.
That's still a great place. LibertyCon is amazing. I can't tell you. And Sarah is going to be joining us here in a moment. I went to LibertyCon my first time specifically to see Sarah, and I learned a ton from her about the industry. And LibertyCon has just been really important to my career, and can't talk about it enough. John, where will we find you?
I will be at Fantasy this weekend coming up. After that, I'll be at HoosierCon, which is a small gaming convention here in Indianapolis. Then LibertyCon after that.
Excellent. So, one of the reasons that I went ahead and went through you guys and completed everything, so you've gotten a chance to say everything, is that we need to get one more person on here. And apparently, and I didn't know this before setting this up, StreamYard has a limit of 10 faces at once. So
well, I can run. I got a lot to do with the CKPI and the foreign language stuff. So
Yeah,
I
first
need to drop also.
first shift I can drop.
well, why don't we have Kevin? Why don't you say your goodbyes and drop, and then we'll pull Sarah Hoyt in.
right, it was good seeing everybody. Sorry I missed you, Sarah. We'll see you guys at LibertyCon.
See you there.
Thanks. I've got to go too, but thank you all very much. It's great to see you.
Thanks, Dave. I look forward to talking to you later.
It was a lot of fun, and thank you again for including me. And I'll see you all next time.
Hey, I join and everyone leaves.
Well, not everyone.
I just showed up too. They're doing the same for me.
I have a sequel to write. I'm sorry.
Always.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it turns out this may be kind of serendipitous that we had two kind of waves. I messed up the time, as I've mentioned before to those who've been watching. I said 7 Central, or I thought I said 7 Central to Jeremy, and I didn't. I went back and looked back and said 7 o'clock, and he's like, okay, 7 Eastern. Well, those are 2 different times, and I wasn't paying attention. So we actually started an hour early with a crew of about like this, and we've got a second crew of about like this. So this turns out it works out very, very well because everybody gets a chance to really talk about all the things they're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through. I sent you guys some questions. We'll start with, I'm just going to go into the order that we've got on the screen, which means Benjamin. Benjamin, you are first on the screen for me. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story in Bonds of Valor. And if you have a favorite part about your story and the world that you've created, please talk about Necrolopolis. But if you have a favorite part of the story, tell us about that too.
Okay. First off, can you hear me okay? My microphone's been giving me grief, so we're good to go? Perfect.
Yep, looks like it.
So, hi, my name's Benjamin Tyler Smith. I write fantasy and science fiction. I've got 2 novels written in the Fallen World universe that Chris Kennedy Publishing has put out. Working on a 3rd one, although I've got a couple of other books in mind I have to do before then, so no telling when that'll be done. On the fantasy end of things, I mostly write in my Necrolopolis universe. For those who don't know anything about it, to give you a quick rundown, Necrolopolis is a city of about 4 million undead, all waiting for their chance to meet with the god of death, to have their issues that are binding them to this mortal coil resolved so they can then cross over to the afterlife. But with a wait time of about 75 years before you can meet with the god of death, that's a lifetime's worth of mischief you can get into in this city. And our protagonist, the necromancer Adalvel Brightmere, it's his job to keep all of those undead in line so that things don't devolve into total chaos. Just enough chaos to keep things interesting. Now, in this particular short story, Severed Bonds, this actually takes place outside of the city. A ghost has arrived in the city with word that his entire village has woken up as ghosts with their bodies missing, which is a little bit of a strange situation. So Adalvel is dispatched with a fellow necromancer named Gilnor and an ashling, an undead lady named Pyria, and it's their job to figure out what's going on. Only when they follow this gentleman back to his village, all of his ghostly villagers are now missing too. So not just their bodies, but the spirits as well. So something strange is afoot in the land, and they have to figure that out. My favorite part of this story was the bickering that goes on between Adalvel and Gilnor. The two have a little bit of a history, and the fact that they're both necromancers, there's also a bit of rivalry there. So it was a lot of fun forcing them to work together to try and come up with a solution to this issue, and just to see how all of that shakes out in the end. So I hope people really do enjoy it. And if it is your first time reading the story, reading in that universe, there are 13 others that are out there that you can find either on my site or have links that are there on the site as well. And Rob's edited and published, will this be the 4th?
I think this is the 4th, yeah. And this was just your traditional average buddy necromancer story. I mean, the same as you get, all the time on TV.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Totally.
Sarah, you're next on my screen. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and about the story that you put in here? And I should add, this is the story you gave me is the single favorite story I have ever edited for any of these anthologies. It's brilliant.
Oh, good Lord, no pressure.
No pressure.
It was bad enough that you said you went to LibertyCon to meet me, which I had no idea of, for the record.
You were one of the ones I wanted meet too, Sarah. My first Liberty Con.
Oh, so my name is Sarah Hoyt. Everyone knows that. The accent is Portuguese. I'm sorry. Before people guess Romania or Russia or whatever, it's Portuguese. And I started out in this field in literary fantasy. And it depresses me. And since then, I've written pretty much everything except men's adventure and children's picture books. But Dan, as Dan was next to me on the screen, has told me not to promise that I won't write in any genre, because if I do, I will find myself writing it by the evening. So my tagline is supposed to be "No genre is safe from me." Let me see. This particular story. So my fans are, I love them to death, but kind of like a mom loves toddlers. You can't leave them unsupervised and running with scissors or running with ideas. I was in one of my fan groups, I was belly aching about my muse because, of course, I have a writing schedule and things that are supposed to be out. So what it wants to work on is something that isn't even vaguely scheduled, or it won't come out probably the first one till the end of next year. Sorry, the end of this year. So I was complaining and someone said, you know what? What we need is a murder mystery when you kill your muse and someone has to investigate it. And then it went careening down the crazy path. So I knew I had this story due, and I actually had an idea, but I tried to write it and set in World War II, and it's just slightly depressing. And because I was already depressed, it just got to a point that I was like, I can't continue this. So I sat down, tried to come up with another idea. And there was this crazy person in my head narrating a muse murder mystery. And it took me till about page 2 to realize the crazy person was Kit Marlowe, which, you know, one of these days I'm going to be served with a non-stalking order. Marlowe and Shakespeare. But yes, of course, this is a noir detective short story with all the trimmings, including the femme fatale. And in the noir atmosphere, but it goes into the subconscious and the deep mind of mankind, so to put it, and also in parallel worlds. Along the way, it explains why all writers are crazy, or at least real writers, and it's not our fault, honestly. And once I was done writing it, I realized it was a series. So it's going to be either novels or either short novels or novellas, because if I write this as novels, it's going to get in the way of all the other ones planned, which of course is the Muses plot. So I will be doing a series starting with how Kit Marlowe got not killed, but became a muse. And then an investigator of murders and crimes between muses and humans. And yes, for those following at home, John Ringo's muse does make an appearance in black leather and with a whip strapped on.
That does seem absolutely correct. All right, Daniel. Dan came on to the scene late. I needed a story quickly, and Dan jumped onto something and gave me a story like 5 days, and it's brilliant. So, Dan, introduce yourself and tell us about your story.
Well, I'm Dan Hoyt. I write science fiction under Daniel M. Hoyt. I also write fantasy and other genres. Mostly I've been writing anthologies. I have one novel out that's a space opera. Everything else is just primarily for anthologies. I've also edited a couple of anthologies for DAW, but that's been a while, so I don't worry about those too much anymore. I'm my day job, I'm a rocket scientist. So I tend to go more toward actual science and science fiction rather than just making things up. The space opera was kind of a fun diversion where I didn't have to do that. And true to that, even in this, Sarah and I have been talking about the idea of magicians in space for a while. And she had thought about doing a story for it, but she just didn't really come up with an idea that she wanted. And I looked at that and said, "Oh, I have an idea, but I don't know if I have time." So when Rob actually approached me about this, was the middle of the week, and I'm in the middle of doing a lot of stuff, so I just didn't have the time for it. And I got around onto Saturday, and I told him I'd try. Got around to Saturday, kind of like I fleshed out kind of what I wanted to do with the story. Did the research that I needed to, which is the basic setting of this is that the two main solar systems in the Milky Way, which are ours and Centauri, are effectively at war with each other. And our solar system is run by magic, and theirs is run by technology. And we have technology in our solar system from eons ago. And somewhere along the line, 3 very talented magicians got together and figured out how to make the technology work through magic, effectively using magic as a substitute for electricity, if you will, and for circuiting. So they figured out how to direct their flow of magic into these old machines and figured out how they work or how to make them work. They don't necessarily know how they work, really. And so the central concept is that one of these guys is who is a magician that pilots a spacecraft, otherwise known as a space mage, is a dropout of the Space Mage Academy and is stuck out in an area where he's certain to die and needs to call in his final card and call on his old classmates from the academy to try to help him. And the only one that responds was his arch nemesis. So where do we go from there? And is he actually going to even help him, and why? And the rest of the story deals with why he's willing to help him and what connects them. So that's basically where it came from. To be fair, I had about 1,500 words on that on Saturday, and I really thought that I was going to have to drop and tell Rob I wasn't going to be able to do it. So I spent the day on Sunday and finished it up and sent it. So it wasn't really 5 days. It was more like 2.
Well, from my perspective, I was like, hey, could you try at least? And then all of a sudden magic. And I'm like, wow, this is good.
Well, as I said, I spent a lot of time researching. So because I wanted to make sure that I could figure out the right science for it. There's a kind of a critical aspect that I'm not going to talk about how we get from point A to point B. And it's too far between our solar systems. Just bottom line, it's just too far. So they had to have a way of making it work. And so I had to come up with a way that would actually be reasonable as well. So anyway,
you did a great job. I thought that was an amazing story.
Well,
especially in the time frame. So earlier I talked about the cover includes Bax's main character sort of at the top, and then Fiona's character with his mouse on the right. And then now we get to Casey Moores, and he's got the third character on the screen. Tell us about the story. Tell us about yourself, Casey, and what's your favorite aspect about the story and the universe you've created?
Well, I'm Casey Moores. I've been writing for a few years. I write science fiction, fantasy, and military fantasy largely. I was a Air Force rescue and special ops pilot in C-130 for 20-year career that I just retired from, and now I instruct that. So that's sort of the background I come from. And I got into writing near the end of my career. One of the first stories I wrote was called The Ants Go Marching, and it's was published in a small anthology that kind of disappeared into the ether. But you can get that short story on my Amazon author page now. In that short story, I introduce two of the characters I introduced are a Sergeant Bastion and a Captain Damon. The Captain Damon is a dark elf. I think I call them deep elves in the Death Mage Wars universe. And Sergeant Bastion is an orc. In that story, they're on the front lines of essentially World War I, and that is the primary setting of the Death Mage Wars that I really created with that story. I continued it in Acquaint Pastime, which was in Songs of Valor. And then I continued it with Widow's Feast in Talons of Talisman. And then I gave you one more that was more of a prequel to the Death Mage Wars, The Lost Cloud in Keen Edge of Valor. So now I wanted to go back and give a little bit of prequel story to Captain Damon and Sergeant Bastion and show how they originally met and create the background for them as I develop this universe and move it forward. So then Corporal Bastion and then Lieutenant Damon are on a distant field fighting for the Lutetian Expeditionary Auxiliary. I am going to be completely upfront about this. I straight up stole the Battle of Cameroon, one of the most famous battles of the French Foreign Legion, and I recreated it in my Death Mage universe as the venue for Sergeant Bastion and Damon to have experienced combat and survived and fought almost to the death somewhere in the distant past. And so, oh my lord, the title is escaping. The Unwanted Legion. In the Unwanted Legion, we learn that the Lutetian Expeditionary Auxiliary is the force that the nation of Lutetia sends out to fight its battles when it doesn't want to be there. So they send out the Lutetian Expeditionary Auxiliary, a company, to search for an enemy that is rumored to be tracking down a great shipment of gold and supplies to a siege so many miles away. This company is greatly outnumbered. They are essentially sticking their nose into the wilderness to see if they can find this enemy force and then come back to report it. By the time they run into it, it's a little too late, and they can't run. All they can do is fight. And that's what the Lutetian Expeditionary Auxiliary, the Unwanted Legion, that's what they do.
And it's a heck of a fight. It is a really knockdown, drag-out fight. And that was really well done. I really enjoyed reading it, Casey. All right, so we're going to get into the fun part of this for you guys. This is the hard question part where Casey, I'm going to start with you and kind of go back around. What's the favorite compliment that you've ever received or given about writing?
Oh, I've been thinking about this one, and either way, I've been struggling with it. But I think the best compliment I ever received was actually for my JTF 13 book, Witch Hunt, story about monster hunting Civil War Marines, and the reviewer said that it wasn't their usual thing, but they absolutely loved it and they couldn't put it down. And then they gave it to their husband, who was actually a Civil War historian, and he praised it for the history that I'd woven into it, essentially. So I was particularly proud of that aspect of that novel in the first place, so it was really wonderful to hear somebody use their own words and say it sort of unprovoked or unpushed by me.
So they're not getting a check in the mail anytime
They're
soon?
not getting a check in the mail. I don't even know who they are. Like to meet them someday.
Awesome. So Daniel, what's the favorite compliment that you've received or given about writing?
Well, I know that sounds like I'm sucking up, but actually the one that you wrote in the preface there. So I was actually very happy with that. Because I don't usually, I'm the other Hoyt, right? So in Liberty Con circles, I'm also known as Mr. Sarah Hoyt. So, and it doesn't bother me. I don't really care. It's not like my identity is wrapped up in my wife or myself separately. But I learned to write because I didn't have the vocabulary to be able to critique my wife's writing when she started a group. So I learned the process and started writing. I used to write music and lyrics, so it wasn't a huge change. But as a result, I'm usually the one that's kind of in the background, skipped. You know, they always forget about me. So it's nice to actually be pointed out.
So here's what I said, at least one of the key thing that's going to be relevant going forward. He wasn't a regular going into this, but I'll be hitting Daniel M. Hoyt up all the time after reading the story he sent me here. It was a last-minute addition when health problems prevented another writer from contributing, and he did an amazing job in a weekend, as we've talked about. So
thank you.
Yes, Daniel, be paying attention. At the end of this, I'll be announcing the theme for the next one of these. So just saying.
I will do my best, and I guess I'll try to keep my weekends a little more free.
Well, you have a little bit more time. I mean, I'm going to give
I
you
don't.
a few weekends. Well, how you prioritize the next year is totally up to you.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah, what's the favorite compliment you've ever received or given about writing?
First, I want to say that I don't think he is Mr. Sarah Hoyt. However, there is something that fans do that creeps me beyond belief, which is confuse my older son and my husband and go, she's married to Robert. And no, stop.
If I can explain that just with one quick point, Sarah and I have never collaborated on a story ever, but she has collaborated with our son.
And he collaborated with the younger son, and people told me, I bought the anthology with your boys' stories in it, and I'm going, no, that's my husband and my son. But the best compliment I ever received, I don't think I could improve on this if, they made me Empress of the World. Mrs. Heinlein said that Robert would have been proud to have me as a daughter.
Wow.
And you can't top that. No one can top that.
I saw that look from Benjamin there. It's like, wait a minute, you knew Ginny? Well, yes. Our son was actually born on Heinlein's birthday, the 7th, and we sent a birth announcement to Ginny, and Ginny sent him a teddy bear, which he still has at 31.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so she started corresponding with me, and for a while we were AIM buddies. And I want to point out he got me to send her a birth announcement in a moment of weakness. I was confused from giving birth. Otherwise, I'd never have dared. But she read my first books, and she told me that, and that's, no one's ever going to improve on that.
No, I don't think so. So, Benjamin, what's you get to follow that?
Oh,
no
man,
pressure,
yeah,
eh?
No, and mine's a simple one. Like anyone who knows me knows my primary form of entertainment outside of reading books is watching anime or playing JRPGs, which have the modern ones have a lot of anime influence. So the greatest compliment I've ever been given has come from multiple people at this point. Is a lot of people say that what I write, particularly the action scenes, read like an anime, and it can't get much better than that for me.
Nice. That's a good one for you. All right.
I'll have to actually, Ben, I'll have to jump in there because my daughter has recently got me into Demon Slayer, and I was just watching the season called The Mugen Train. And while I was watching it, the first thing I thought of was On a Wing and a Train.
Which is a previous story
from Songs of Valor, yeah.
Yeah. And that was a fun one to write. And I got to see the Mugen Train movie in theaters, and I was thinking about that the entire time I was watching it too. That's a good anime, Demon Slayer. I highly recommend that.
So we're gonna skip from anime to something I know a little bit more about. Benjamin, who's your favorite Muppet?
I don't know if this counts, but the Henson Workshop put them together, so I'll say he counts. That would be Dominar Rigel from the show Farscape. He is my favorite Muppet.
Yeah, that's a good one, and hasn't been picked yet. I'll allow it. Sarah, who's your favorite Muppet?
It used to be Animal, but as I get older and see more of the world, I'm becoming the two old guys in the balcony, complete with arguments with myself.
These days, with the state of the world, I think we're all relating to them more and more.
How about you, Daniel? Who's your favorite Muppet?
Well, it used to be Kermit, but since I've become diabetic, it's the Cookie Monster. I think that's just wishful thinking.
C is for Cookie, and that's good enough for me.
That's right.
All right, Casey, how about you?
I'm going to have to go with Beaker because that used to be my wife's nickname once upon a time. So used to be the sweetest for a long time, but once I found out that my wife had been Beaker, Beaker is now my favorite.
I've met your wife. I would not have immediately gone straight to Beaker.
Yeah, I think it was high school or middle school or something, but for a time she was Beaker, and now Beaker's my favorite.
Well, that's fair. Beaker should be your favorite in that case. All right, so now another hard-hitting question. What's your wrestler name, and what's your signature wrestler move? That's you, Casey.
Still on me? All right.
Yeah. We're doing the loop back around.
I would be the Weasel, and my signature move would be the ankle bite.
I can totally see that. How about you, Daniel? What's your wrestler name, and what's your signature wrestler move?
The Professor, and my signature move is boring you to tears.
There was there's an old computer game called Anachronox where one of the main characters in there, it's a sci-fi story, but there's magic, there's technology all blended into it. But one of the main characters is this old wizard guy, and one of his special moves is I forget what it's called now. I think it's incessant blather. That's what it was. And he just spews text and all sorts of stuff, fills the entire screen with it, and does massive damage to the enemy, and sometimes puts them to sleep.
I actually said it wrong, though. In reality, that was my nickname when I was working at MCI, because when people who would be asking technical questions shouldn't be asking them, they sent me over to answer them because I could glaze them over in 5 seconds flat, and then they wouldn't ask uncomfortable questions anymore.
You know, that's my standard technique when dealing with police officers. I become overly geeky and enthusiastic, and I help them as much as possible until they go, we're fine, sir. Do you need anything more? No. You stay here. We'll.
Did you know that I can help you increase your performance on that radar? It's really simple, too.
Thank you, sir. Sarah, what's your wrestler name and what's your signature move?
Some of us don't choose wrestler names. They get bestowed upon us. In this case, and I want to point out that I have no illusions and I think they're crazy, but my name is the beautiful yet evil Space Princess. And my secret move is either point and laugh, which I do a lot of, or impersonating a white Mormon male.
That is not. It's your shocked face.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. The shocked face.
My shocked face.
Give us your shocked
my
face.
Shocked face. Behold, my shocked face.
Ow, not the shocked face. Benjamin, what's your wrestler name? What's your signature wrestler move?
Mine is Sweet Tea Man, and my signature wrestling move is Sugar Crash. And of course, it always happens right off the top turnbuckle. That's the only way to do it.
You live in the South?
Oh, I don't live there, but I'm from there, from Alabama.
Makes sense.
Oh, yes.
All right. Let's see here. Last whimsical question. We'll start with you, Benjamin. What is your favorite 70s TV show?
All right, well, if the last question didn't pinpoint my point of origin, this one will. Dukes of Hazzard. And that's because I can watch the General Lee get jumped all day long. It never gets old.
You're actually the second person to mention that. Dave Butler mentioned that one earlier, too.
I knew Dave and I were on the same wavelength.
I seem to recall Dukes of Hazzard, not necessarily for the car, but for Catherine Bach. That was about that time for me. So,
well, now, yeah. All right. So there are two reasons to like that.
How about you, Sarah? What is your favorite 70s TV show? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
The Persuaders with Tony Curtis and Roger Moore, for the same reasons you like the Dukes of Hazzard. Although having seen a portion of an episode recently, those clothes.
That's fair. I can see how Roger Moore and Tony Curtis might do that to you. All right, you, Daniel. What's your favorite 70s TV show?
Mannix.
Oh, wow. I can see his face, but I can't think of the actor's name. Because he's my size. I mean, he's my shape.
No, not Mannix. You're thinking of Ironside. I watched all of those, actually. Rockford Files.
Yeah.
With Jim Garner. All of that. But Mannix had music by Lalo Schifrin. And that just really spoke to me.
Right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of yes, I am thinking of a different show. But yeah, I watched a bunch of those growing up too, and the Rockford Files is still. And we talked about theme songs earlier. Rockford Files has one of my favorite themes. I can't place the Mannix theme off the top of my head though. It's been a while. I may have to go back and find that on streaming service and watch it. I recently did that with Kojak, but
I can tell you what it's like. That was Mannix.
Awesome. Come to CKP, get music as well as books. All right, Casey, what's your favorite 70s TV show?
Well, it really was the Dukes of Hazzard, but I'm gonna have to pick another one since that's already been done. When I was a kid, I think it was actually Happy Days, but now if I was to go back, I'd have to check out Charlie's Angels, give that a rewatch probably.
Yes. I might have some memories of Charlie's Angels too. All right, so this is the last question, and then I'll get into some detailed stuff about next year and some of the other things that are going on this weekend. Casey, tell us where we can find you. Include all your promo stuff you want to include. Also, where will we see you? What are some of your upcoming events that you'll be attending?
All right, well, my website is caseymoores.net, CASEYMORES. But that's actually, that website is under construction right now. We're trying to make it better, and I've found out that a lot of the links have failed. I don't know why, but we're working on it. In the meantime, you can find me on Facebook as Casey Moores Writer. You can find me on Instagram as Casey Moops. That's my alias, Moops, because the card says Moops. Thank you, Seinfeld. Carried that for 20 years at the Air Force. 25 years, so we started the Air Force Academy. Anyway, you can find me also on Amazon. If you want to find my books, that's the best way. Just go on Amazon, type in Casey Moores, tell them, no, I did not mean Casey Moore, then re-click on Casey Moores. And I'm not associated with the Oyster House in Tempe, Arizona, though I do need to go there someday. Trailing off for the rest of the year, I'm going to be at LibertyCon. I cannot make Fantasy this weekend. It was a bridge too far, but I will be at LibertyCon in Chattanooga in June. I will be at DragonCon this year, Labor Day weekend.
Excellent. Daniel, Tell us about some of your promo stuff and where we'll get a chance to see you.
I'm a social ghost, pretty much. I do have a website, Daniel M. Hoyt, or Dan Hoyt will redirect to it. I don't really, I'm not active on Facebook. I have accounts for Facebook and Twitter, and probably will have other ones too, but I rarely ever use them. I find that my blood pressure is just fine the way it is right now. So I just stay off social media and it stays that way. And when I'm on social media, it doesn't. So I
agree.
I like to keep my blood pressure in an operating
if
range.
you need Dan, get hold of me and tell me to pass something along to him.
Yeah. I even check my email about once a week,
So will we be seeing you at any conventions or anything?
I will be at LibertyCon. There's another one in Texas that we'll be at in a few weeks, but
That one is a small Relaxicon. However,
Yeah.
Dan and I have been invited as guests of honor to Son of SilverCon.
What?
I believe September in Las Vegas.
It is
Holds are
September.
allotted.
this is the first I've heard of this.
Sorry, a special guest. The guest of honor is Maggie Hogarth, MCA Hogarth. And we'll see if it coalesces, because when they pinged me, I didn't take them super seriously. They didn't seem to have their stuff together, but they seem to be getting it together.
That's how you got the Barbarella gig too, not taking it
Yeah,
seriously
yeah.
for several weeks.
All right, so I know that you would be next on the screen, Sarah, but I'm going to actually skip to Benjamin, who apparently has his boss is calling for him. So Benjamin, would you and then we'll actually pop to Justin and go through the questions with Justin, and then come back to you, Sarah. So Benjamin, tell us where we can find you on the line and in real world.
Okay, you can find me online at benjamintylersmith.com. I'm starting to get a little bit more active on there again with blog posts, and there's a link on there in the top right corner that will take you to a sign-up form for a free short story, one of my Necrolopolis stories, and it should also sign you up to a mailing list. The mailing list really hasn't taken off yet. I'm still kind of working on that, but you will have access to the story, and you'll have access to posts once I start getting those going. You can also find me on Facebook as well as on Twitter, although again, I'm not terribly active with those. I'm kind of like Dan in that regard, a little bit of a social media ghost, but I'm definitely there. And I'm most active on Discord, on the Three Ravens Publishing Discord channel, as well as the New Mythology Press channel, and on a couple of other writers' channels as well. So look for me there, and I hope we can interact. I would love to talk to people.
You have a great night, and I believe your toddler has some important business for you to handle.
Oh, yes. It is bedtime. It is past bedtime. But thank y'all, and I look forward to seeing some people at LibertyCon and maybe one other con later this year, but I don't know about that. So I'll see y'all then.
Have a great night.
Take care, y'all. Good night.
All right, so Justin, you're traveling to Fantasy. That's why you were late. So
Yes.
Far better for you to travel to Fantasy and get to hang out there. And it seems like you've got a trusty assistant as well. So
Yeah, you can hear her in the background.
Yep. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about the story that you have in Bonds of Valor. And if you have a favorite part, tell us what you thought was really cool about it.
Well, so my story is Chronicles of a Portal Slammer, Bloodheart. And so that one, I met Rob at FenCon last year, and he mentioned that this contest was coming up, and he was like, well, but it might be a little bit of a quick turnaround. So I had to reach into my ideas bucket, right? Because every writer has their ideas bucket. They're like, hey, this hit me in the shower when I was sleeping or whatever, and I wrote it down real quick. And so I reached into that real quick and just pulled out a story. And so it's essentially revolves around the concept that it's a portal fantasy where someone can open a portal or close a portal and various other portal related powers, but no one can do both. And so that requires a partnership like that leads to this bond of valor that works in the story here.
It did work. It worked really well.
Thank you. Thank you. So I did end up writing the story fairly quick. I was proud of myself for putting it together as quickly as I did. Like I said, that ideas bucket. If you don't have one, you need to start thinking about just something you can draw on when you need it. Sometimes they go into their own stories, and sometimes they just match into a story you're already writing. You never know. So I kind of built a setting around a late 19th century America. It's a made up place, but where you have telegraph but not telephone and those kind of things. So you have there's still the idea of having a frontier, and a dangerous frontier even, that they have to encounter.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. All right, so what's your favorite compliment that you've ever given or received? Favorite compliment that you've ever given or received about writing?
I think I like it when people tell me that my books are fairly fast paced, right? So it's a fairly generic compliment, but when you're trying to write, I feel like audiences today, obviously you still have Tolkien and other writers that are in the past that people love and they'll love forever, right? But a lot of times today, if you got to keep that audience going, right? And so if it's not fast paced, you're probably going to lose them. And so what you're really trying to do is you're trying to, especially in a fantasy or science fiction story, you're trying to establish lore, you're trying to establish a history, and yet you can keep the story moving. So whenever someone tells me that I've accomplished that is what I'm really excited about. And if I haven't accomplished that, then I probably need to go back to the drawing board and clean it up a little bit.
That's certainly true for me, and it's one of the things I struggle with. That's for sure. All right, so lightning round questions. Who's your favorite Muppet?
Favorite Muppet. So a funny story, both my wife and I dressed as Oscar the Grouch when we were kids. So I'm going to stick with that one. Around the same age, too. It's really funny.
So which of you is grouchier?
I don't know. My wife's sitting across from me, so I'm going to say me.
Don't answer that. Don't answer that.
It's a trap. All right. What's your wrestler name and what's your signature wrestler move?
Ooh, wrestler name. So my wife makes fun of me because I always use magic as kind of my username for stuff. So we'll stick with that one. I misspell it, of course. So I do MAJIK. So if you see that somewhere on like Overwatch or some other social media, that might be me.
You created it when you were 13.
Yeah. So I've had it. Yeah, I've been using it a long time. What was the secondary question? The signature move?
What's your signature move?
Well, it has to be something that looks tricky, right? So let's turn off the lights and then jump on someone or something like that.
All right. Turn off the lights. All right. What's
and
your favorite?
Write erotica, right?
Yeah,
That's a different
true.
kind of. Never mind. I will not say what I was about to say. In any case,
Lights Out.
what was your
That's the move
favorite?
name.
What's your favorite 70s TV show?
70s.
Yes, there was TV back in the 70s.
There was. Was it in color? No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
Steam powered, but it exists.
Yeah. Actually, it depends. It was black and white in Europe. It was color in the States.
Well, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that's 70s. So I'm going to have to. Do you have a gong? Like, can you gong me on that one?
There you go. That's a 70s TV show.
Well, we'll go with that then.
Yeah, the Gong Show was a brilliant TV show to be.
We're letting infants write fantasy now.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Believe it or not, they'll let
this
anyone
was my
publish
moment. Sorry.
All right, Sarah, tell us about yourself. We're going to go ahead and get this going. Sarah, tell us about yourself.
I'm on According to Hoyt, but it's political, so Dan doesn't read it because it would raise his blood pressure. I have a newsletter on Substack called Schrodinger Path, which is actually relevant to a new universe I'm writing in besides the Dark Ships one. It's called Schrodinger Worlds, and there is a reason for the name. And I am on Twitter, but the chances of you getting an answer there are very low because other than echoing my blog, I go there like once every 2 years. And last time I went there, I got scared because there were all these comics dealers taking pictures of themselves with Barbarella and tweeting them at me. And that was strange with issues of Barbarella. So I am on Facebook, which is where Rob usually grabs me. And on Facebook, if you PM me, I will actually answer. There is a fan group on Discord called Hoyt's Huns, but they got very selective about vetting after one very weird incident. So let's say someone wanted us to do a lot of damage on Minecraft, and he brought his own glowworms, and so it was very weird. And since then, someone there has to vouch for you, or we don't, or you have to be a long-time commenter or a personal friend of mine. I think that's about it. But if you want to grab me on social media, you can.
Where will we see you in person?
We're going to LibertyCon, and as I said, I was approached about 3 months ago by this group in Vegas who is starting a new con. I think it's supposed to be. Wait a second, I'll tell you exactly when it's supposed to be.
It is like the third week. It's like the 23rd or so of September. I saw the promo stuff for it today, and it quite clearly said Sarah and Daniel Hoyt.
Yes, they pinged me on Facebook. I get the weirdest conversations. Okay, I get the weirdest. So Dan was alluding. I don't know why I have an echo. Okay. Dan was alluding to my doing Barbarella. He said that I ignored it, and it's true. I got an email, because I get these every other week, and it's usually a college kid going, "Hey, I'm doing this comic for my blah blah class, and can you do a script for me?" And I go, I have a life, no. So, or can I use your blah blah short story as a basis for it? And it's like, I prefer you don't. So I got this one, which was, "Hey, can you write scripts for Barbarella?" And I was really tired. I had just finished the book. Might have been, no, it wasn't Guardian, but it was something I had just finished and delivered, and I was completely exhausted. I looked at the email a while. I went, it's a college kid, and ignored it. 2 weeks. So I hear it as a whine in my head, which it's not. It was just an email, but it said, "Hey, it's not like we're the smallest comic house in the business. It said, we're the third largest, and we'll pay you." And this was the magic. You what? Oh, well, and so I'm now on the second series. The first series went 10 issues. I just turned in yesterday the script for the fourth.
It was really 12. It was 10 plus a couple of bonuses.
But this con was the same thing. I was looking in Facebook, and people ping me out of the blue all the time going, "Hey, if we organize a blah, 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 and we pay your way, will you come?" And it's like, "You'll pay my way? Sure, I'll come." And then I never hear from them again, because they are in the initial stages, and
stuff happens.
This one said, "Hey, we have this con, and Maggie Hogarth is the guest of honor, and we'd like to bring you and Dan as special guests. And really, we don't have a program. We just want to turn you loose and see what you do."
Oh.
Well, there's a precedent for this. That's what LibertyCon did. They had us both on as special guests.
Nice.
And I looked at it and I went, "Okay." And I said, "So you're bringing Dan in to mind me?" And they're like, No, we love his space opera, and we'd like to convince him to write more." I went, "Okay, I'm on the same boat, so that's fine." But in my head, this is something that might or might not come together. I know I told Dan at the time, because I said, "Hey, someone wants you to come be a special guest because of Euclid, because they want you to write more." And he was like, "What? Oh, okay." And then he forgot it. And now this month, it's like, it's all, they are finalizing a hotel, and they have all this stuff, and I'm going, what? So apparently we'll be at Son of SilverCon and LibertyCon. I am trying to organize a dinner for my fans, at the end of April in Kansas City, because we're going to be there.
And hopefully I can join in, and I hope that all works out, because that's awesome. Thanks very much, Sarah. Justin, tell us where we can find you online and where you'll be coming up.
So I'm on most of the socials. So Instagram is probably the one I'm most active on. Twitter, I'll put random thoughts on occasionally. Facebook, I usually just cross post from Instagram. And then I have my website at justindoyle.mailerpage.io that I just actually relaunched because of MailChimp changing some of their policies. So I switched over to MailerLite. So,
and you'll be at Fantasy.
I will be at Fantasy. I was at AggieCon a few weeks ago. I was just looking at LibertyCon. It looks like they're sold out, so I will not be at LibertyCon.
And LibertyCon sells out quickly. Sarah, did you have something to add?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Yes. I wanted to talk about Justin's bucket of ideas and say that I am profoundly jealous because I don't have a bucket of ideas. They have escaped the bucket and they're running after me with teeth and sometimes knives. So,
As your husband, I'd prefer you not talk about Justin's bucket at all.
That's probably fair. That seems like a great place to kind of get into the final thing. So we're going to be doing a release party at Fantasy next week. Actually, it's Friday at 4 p.m. in Magnolia. If you're at Fantasy, come here and feel free to hit up all the people who'll be there, which is some of who is here, and actually not all of them can make it, unfortunately, this year, but we'll get a few, and we'll talk about many of the same things, and we'll see if I can come up with some better questions than things like wrestler name. And then want to emphasize the Discord channel for New Mythology Press. We have a Discord channel. If you want to come join, I'll make sure Jeremy has a link to put on to this when it goes live. Before I get to the final thing I wanted to add, I really want to thank Jeremy for all the work he's put into this. This ended up being a 2-hour show instead of kind of a 1-hour show, which is what he normally does. It turned out to be perfect timing. We had enough people that really 1 hour would have been really tough to get a lot of this in. And I really enjoyed having 2 hours to spend with you guys and having sort of second shift and first shift. But Jeremy really went beyond the above the call of duty to handle both of it. So thanks very much, Jeremy, for all your work in general for CKP YouTube, but also for this in particular. And finally, I'm going to close out with the announcement. I'll announce it here. I'm going to announce it officially at Fantasy closing ceremonies. But I'll give you guys, if you're here watching, you deserve a bit of a freebie. Next year's theme for the Valor book will be Paladins and Chivalry, and it'll be the same sort of rules of word length and all that sort of a thing. And I'll post that on all my social media and everywhere around, all the specific details. But Paladins and Chivalry will be the next Valor anthology. So I'm Rob Howell. I had a great time doing this. I really appreciate all of you who hung out for however long you hung out. It's definitely time for me to call it a night because I can't barely speak at this point. And in not too long, I'll be getting on the road and heading to Fantasy. So I hope to see a bunch of you there. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for showing up.
Thanks for having us.
All right, thanks, Joe.